guys, it's Tyler Johnson. We're back with part 4 of the grinder in a box build. Things are going pretty good. I do want to apologize. My video series kind of got behind on me. In hindsight, I would have done it a little different. I would have probably put the whole video series together and then just had it done and started releasing it piece by piece, and it wouldn't have put me on the same timeline. I did not appreciate until I undertook this project how difficult it is to build something while you're videotaping each step so you can explain to somebody else what you're doing. I do have a new appreciation for how difficult that is. It's been a good learning process for me though, and I'm having a good time doing it, but it has slowed me down quite a bit. And just regular life things getting in the way of fun time out here in the shop. So with that said, we're going to get moving into part 4. We'll finish this grinder up. As you can see, most of the grinder's completed. You saw it basically in this stage at the end of the last video. I do have the motor installed. I've got my controller over here. We'll talk about the motor controller a little later. I did get my wheels. I went with Beaumont Metalworks. Looked everywhere, and here's my bottom line advice. I tried to find the cheapest wheels I could to keep the cost of this build down. And the thing I came away with is just there's no cheap wheels out there. And when you're spinning something as fast as we're going to be spinning stuff, I don't know if you want cheap wheels, if you can even really find them. I went with rubber contact wheel. I did not bite on the polyurethane. I mean, guys say they work good, but I just decided to go ahead and spend the money, even though it was tempting to get that polyurethane. I didn't want any hassles. I wanted it to be done right the first time. So got that. I got my drive wheel, got my idler wheel, got my small idler wheels, my 2 inches for the flat platen. So everything is pretty much here. I still have some more fasteners to collect that we'll talk about later. But the next step is just finishing up this idler arm, getting the idler wheel bracket installed, and getting this all ready to go and painted and installed on the grinder itself. So you guys hang in there for me. I appreciate you sticking with me on this build. Hopefully it's been informative. Hopefully it continues to be informative. And if you just hang with me, we'll be back in a few minutes and we'll get started with the next part of this build. Thanks a lot, guys. Okay, we moved over to the drill press. I've got the bracket for the idler wheel installed in my clamp. I've got it all lined up so I can get my centering hole started, so I get a nice accurate start from my drill press. I like to use centering holes every time so I don't have any walk on my drill bits, so I get a nice accurate start on my hole. So I've got it. It's installed here. We'll get drilling here. I'm gonna move over and show you guys a little better shot. Okay, so here we are. I've got the bracket installed, got my centering bit here, and all I'm going to do is you just have to hit this, make sure you're lined up, and get a nice start. And all that's going to do is just give you that start hole for your drill. So the reason this is going to be a little tricky is as you guys probably realize, that bracket that holds on the actual wheel holder like this, okay, that has to be drilled all the way through. And it's going to need to be drilled kind of slow and precise here so you don't end up having a big variation from this hole to this hole, so you can get a bolt all the way through and get it accurate. So what I'm attempting to do is to go ahead and drill this with a 201 or a 204 for a tap body for a 1/4-20 all the way through, and then I'm going to tap this one side to 1/4-20 threads. If I get it right and get everything lined up, I think it's going to work out fine. If I don't, then I'm going to have to go and just go ahead and do a clearance hole for a 1/4 inch bolt and go that route. But I think we should be accurate enough. I'm taking my time, and it should be fine to do. So I'll go ahead and get this set back up, and we'll go ahead and drill. Okay, we're back. I went ahead and I got the first side of this drilled with a 201 drill bit, or 204. I usually use a 201, but a 204 will work for threading or tapping 1/4-20. So I got the first side drilled. I really took my time and made sure I got everything level here. And I installed my drill bit a little short, just so I made sure I didn't have any deflection while I was drilling the first part. So now I got to extend it out just a little bit to get into the next section. So here we go. We'll finish this up. really kind of hard to see, but you're gonna have to go kind of slow so you don't get any deflection on that back side. I'll give you a better view of that here in just a second. I'm gonna go ahead and make a change in the camera. So here's what I'm talking about right here. If you go too fast, your drill bit's going to deflect, and you're going to end up getting your hole off-centered. So you got to take it nice and slow. Make sure you get that thing started, a little more fluid. And now I've got a good start on it, and I should be able to power all the way through it. You know, I'm never in a big hurry when I'm doing this stuff. Alright, that hole's drilled. Alright, so I'll get this out and we'll move on with the next part. Okay, I've already drilled all the way through with my 201. Now I've reinstalled, before I move this, I reinstalled a 1/4 inch bit. I'm only going to drill, if you're going to go ahead and thread the other side for 1/4 20, you're only going to drill one side for 1/4. If you're going to put a through bolt in of 1/4 20, go ahead and drill both sides with 1/4. But I'm going to try just one side, so I'm going to thread this bottom side, so I'm going to go ahead and drill this for a 1/4 inch clearance hole. Okay, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and take this out and get the wheel holder marked. Also, I'm going to get to the other side threaded as well. So we're going to want to thread this side 1/4 20 right here. So I'll go ahead and get that done and we'll be back. Okay, so what we've done is we finished up this bracket. Got a 1/4 inch clearance hole here. Went ahead and tapped my 201 hole here with a 1/4 20 thread. I've installed the idler wheel holder in the vise. I'm using a little magnet from my welding to line everything up. I get everything lined up here, make sure it's nice and square. Use a machinist square it all up. And then once I'm pretty comfortable with that, that looks pretty good, I'm going to go ahead and use my 1/4 inch transfer punch. And I've already painted Dykem on the side of the idler wheel. Just give this a nice little tap. Don't want to be too hard here because you don't want to mess up your alignment. And that gave me, you're not going to be able to see it on the video, but it did give me a small little mark right there where I can reference off of, that I can move this over, make a better starter hole, do my center hole again like I did with the bracket here, and then go ahead and drill my 1/4 inch clearance hole all the way through this. It's going to be a nice slow operation, a lot of cutting fluid. Just take your time. You don't want your drill bit to deflect. Make sure your setup's level and square before you start. Take the time there and it's going to pay off. If not, you're going to get things off kilter and it's not going to work as nice as it could. So I'll get that done and then we'll come back and we'll work on tapping this hole for the bolt for the idler wheel, and we'll work on some modifications that I found on one of the blade forums for this piece here that gives you a little more adjustability to the idler wheel. So I'll be back after I finish this. Okay, so here I've taken the wheel holder and I've installed it in a vise. You guys do this, you know, whatever vise you have available. And then a 1/2 by 13 tap in a handle. A little bit of cutting fluid on there to help you out. And, you know, for those of you that haven't tapped 1/2 inch before, just take your time. Like any tapping operation, you want to take your time. But it is going to be a little tough, especially do it by hand. So you work it in nice and slow, and you're going to have to start really slow. Now, I've already tapped this. I didn't want to waste the whole video time tapping this thing because it does take a little bit of time. But start off slow to make sure you get this this tap in straight. I often walk back and I line it back up as I eye it, and you know, if you do it slow enough, it'll go in straight. Another trick to help you out, which I didn't use in this case, is if you have a countersink that's big enough for a 1/2 inch hole, you can go ahead and hit the top of the hole with a countersink, and that'll give you a little better start for your tap as well. So that's another trick. So got that tapped. I've already got the hole drilled to be able to be installed on here. So that's all pretty much good to go. Now my next thing is we're going to talk about the modification I'm going to do here on the top of the bracket to allow me a lateral adjustment, not just this adjustment. We're going to be able to work in a side-to-side adjustment to be able to help us with tracking if we have any tracking issues. Now I'll go over that here in just a second. Okay, the next thing we need to talk about is getting the holes drilled on the idler arm to hold the idler arm wheel bracket. The first thing I did is I went ahead and positioned this, and I got this idea from David Sharp on Blade Forums from SharpWorks. And what I did is I went ahead and I took a little bit off of here to give me a little play in this. And that allows this piece to move. Then what I did is I lined this up where I wanted it, I clamped it down, and I used a transfer punch to make my marks for my holes. So I'm going to go ahead and drill these and tap these to a 1/4-20, and that will allow me to bolt this down. The next thing I'm going to do, again, David Sharp from SharpWorks had this up on his blog about grinder in the box improvements, is I'm going to basically, I don't have a good setup to mill, so I'm going to basically cut this with a hacksaw, and I've already marked it out. I'm going to go ahead and cut a groove here. So this is going to end up being open. So when the unit itself is running, if I have any tracking issues this way, I'll be able to loosen the front bolt and the rear bolt and move this back and forth a little bit to give me a little extra adjustability on the tracking. So again, that was David Sharp on SharpWorks from the Blade Forums. I'll go ahead and try to do my best to give a good link up on the site or on YouTube when I get this all posted up. And I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. Okay, we're towards the end of getting this idler wheel and idler arm setup done. So what I've done, like I talked about, I was going to slot the one screw hole or one bolt hole so we can have a lateral adjustment. So I've used Dykem, I've laid out my lines, and all I'm going to do for this, you know, you guys, if you have access to a mill, I'm not teaching anything you don't already know. I don't have my mill set up yet. I mean, I'm hoping to get one down the road. So I'm going to have to use the old-fashioned way, hacksaw. You know, and again, this is just one of those operations that you just got to take slow, and it'll get done. Another way you could do it is you could come along here and hit with a drill. You can take some of this material out and use a file. There's all sorts of different ways to do it. I'm going to go ahead and use the hacksaw, and I'm going to clean it up with a file afterwards. So it's going to take me a little while. I'll get this done, and I'll be back after I'm done. Okay, we're back. We got the slot cut. So now we have the ability, when it's bolted on, to get some lateral adjustment here. So basically all that's left here is I'm going to go ahead and test fit everything. So I got to put everything together. I've got all my hardware. It's a 1/4-20 socket head cap. I forget the length on this one. I'll get that real quick. It's basically a 3-inch. Ends up with a little extra on the outside, so if you want to put a nut on the outside you can to secure it, or I'll probably just use some blue Loctite so I can take it back apart if I need to. So I'm going to go ahead and put all this together, get it all test fit, and I also have my adjustment knob. It's kind of a hybrid of knobs that I bought. I got this one, I think, from a Master Car right here. This spring actually came off another one I bought through Beaumont Metalworks when I made the wheel order, and then I added a washer to it, and that's just simply going to thread right into here like so. So, you know, it's really up to you guys what you want to get. The reason I wanted to do a spring, I mean, you could even add a spring just getting from your local hardware store, is I just wanted to add some tension to that so it doesn't back off under operation. So I'll get all this fitted up and test fit, and we'll be back. Okay, here we are. We've got everything assembled for a test fit. Got the wheel holder for the idler. It's all installed. The adjuster's installed. My handle's installed. I've got the gas shock that we talked about. Again, I got this idea from David Sharp from SharpWorks on one of his blogs on the Blade forum. I found that idea. And then my spring installed. So the only thing I don't have installed is my idler wheel. I don't have a long enough bolt, half-inch bolt for this to get it installed here now. I'll have to go back and get a bolt later on. Want to keep you guys one thing in mind. For any spacers, you're going to need to space this out. Or any wheel you're going to use, you're probably going to need to space it out. You're going to need to use either a spacer cut specifically for it, or I'm going to end up using machine washers. For those of you that don't know what machine washers are, they have the correct inner diameter of what you're looking for, in this case half-inch. Then they have a smaller outer diameter, so if you use a regular half-inch, it's going to run up against this outside race. It's going to lock your bearing up, and that's going to cause a problem. It's going to smoke the bearing, break your belt. A lot of bad things are going to happen, so make sure you use the right washer. Good, well-stocked hardware should have it, or USA Knife Maker I know sells those. Alright guys, well that covers part 4. We're almost there. Appreciate you guys hanging in. We've got one more part to do, probably maybe 2. I may just separate the tool arms and the wiring of the motor and the controller into 2 separate deals, but I'll get those done as quickly as possible. I'm going to take everything apart, paint it all up, get it all reinstalled, and this part will basically be done. And then next time we'll talk about the tool arms. I'll probably work on that next, get all those ready to go, because without the tool arms I'm not going to be able to do any grinding. And then we'll also talk about the controller and the motor. Again, I got the KB27 controller, and I got a Leeson 2 horsepower 3-phase motor. I got those from Electric Motor Wholesale online. They're about the best prices I could find. And that's about it. If you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to throw them up on the comment section. I'm looking for any constructive criticism or review, so appreciate you guys coming along. We'll see you on part 5. Take care.